We heard what the president said. What does it mean in the real world? First of all, what does it mean to your company?
Well, for our company, it means that we're going to have the availability to sell higher blends of ethanol nationwide. And so this is something that the president delivered on a promise that he gave the farmer and also really gave the U.S. consumer. It's cheaper than gasoline. It's about 90 cents a gallon cheaper than gasoline. So the consumer is going to have choice, finally, to be able to buy what he wants to buy based on price. The farmer is going to be able to have bigger markets because right now they're struggling in the U.S. Corn Belt. And this is something that's really going to open it up for them. It sends a good message. It sends a message to China to say that we're not going to wait for you to open up your borders. We're going to use our agricultural products here at home. And this is really something that is really important to agricultural economy in a time when they're struggling.
Are automobiles prepared for E15 year-round? Because I know you have to have a higher compression ratio, right, to deal with that?
Well, not really. Actually, 91% of the fleet today is approved to use E15. It's the most tested fuel in the history of all fuels that have ever been tested. And the only reason it's 2001 and newer is because they couldn't find any cars that were older to test. And so that's what a lot of people say. It's not, you can't use it in all your cars, but in general, for 91% of the fleet, you can use E15 today. It's an approved fuel. We just want to sell it year-round and have ability to compete with gasoline at the pump.
What does it do for the environment, if anything?
Well, it's 50% cleaner than gasoline. That's been proven. There's a lot of old reports that the environmentalists want to look at. But in the last 20 years, we have proven that we reduce emissions by over 50% when we burn ethanol. It's cleaner burning. It's alcohol. Think about this. We're just burning alcohol. We're not burning oil. We're not burning gasoline. We're just burning alcohol, and it does burn cleaner by a lot.
So the way you describe it, there's no reason not to do it. Who doesn't like this decision?
Well, who do you think? It's big oil, right? It's just all about market share. And so for every 1% share that we take, it's going to lose $3 billion for them. And they have billions of dollars of reasons to oppose us. And that's really who's going to come after us for this initiative. And so we're going to have to fight hard. I mean, they're definitely going to try to stop this. But we believe we have the inertia, we have the president, we've got the government, and we really have a farm economy that needs this bad.
So let's be precise about this. The president announced that in Iowa, but he doesn't have the authority just to do that on his own.
No, what he said is he wants the EPA to start the rulemaking process, which is once rulemaking starts, the retailer is going to start acting accordingly. And so we're going to see really a waterfall of retailers around the United States that are going to start announcing initiatives around offering E15 at the pumps. You could buy it in Dallas. You could buy it in Houston year-round. You could buy it in Chicago year-round. But you know where you can't buy it year-round? Iowa and Nebraska, the places where we sell it, because of this old antiquated law that you have to not sell it in summer months because of a 1-pound waiver. It's a very old law. It's not really relevant anymore. And the only reason we have E10 versus E15 is because we just didn't have E15 available when we tested the fuel a while ago.
So how long will that rulemaking take, do you expect?
We want this to be done, and the president wants this to be done by the summer driving season. So when we're open to sell fuel year-round, we believe that the EPA can move very quickly to get this done over the next 6 or 8 months.
So you talk about E10, E15. As I understand, in Brazil, they have E25.
Oh, yeah.
So why aren't we doing 25%?
Well, because it's all about big oil, and big oil is not going to give up that share. In addition, really, the U.S. farmer is not equipped yet to go there, but every single year we are increasing production of agricultural commodities. This year is another record corn crop, and we're going to have record after record after record. And everybody thinks the world wants our corn, but actually we have excesses of corn that we cannot sell today, and that's why the farm economy is so struggling. This is going to be the boost that it needs. This is something that the president campaigned on in Iowa and Nebraska, and really it's a big thing. It's the backbone of U.S. agriculture is the ethanol policy.
So you have many ethanol plants.
Yes.
You're a very big producer, as I said, one of the largest in the world. As I understand it, you're going to shut down a couple of those in Iowa. Why is that?
No, actually, we're not shutting down a couple of those in Iowa. That was a rumor that was out there. We went up and down for seasonal maintenance. And what we are doing, though, is we're strengthening our balance sheet as a company. We want to go term debt free. So we're going to sell off some assets to do that, but we are fully committed long-term to ethanol. There's great technologies that are coming after this. We have fuel terminals. We have cattle feeding operations. We're a big conglomerate company, but we do want to be debt-free because in a cyclical market like we're in, we don't want that term debt facing us, and that's really what we're doing. But at this point, most of our plants are running nationwide.
Are you an ethanol exporter?
We are an ethanol exporter. In fact, we just built one of the most modern export terminals in the U.S. Gulf in Beaumont, Texas. And so one of the things that have really impacted the industry this year is the cutoff of China. So China has a 70% tariff on U.S. ethanol, which is incredible because they need it. They have an ethanol policy. They want to use it to clean up their air, and yet they won't let it in because of the trade war going on, and it really impacted margins this year. But countries like Brazil buy our ethanol, even though they're a big ethanol producer. Countries like the EU and India and Philippines, really all over the world, we're exporting our ethanol. Isn't that really something we should not be doing, is exporting our cheap homegrown fuels?
Are you talking to the administration about putting this, or maybe it already is, on the agenda with the bilateral agenda with China? I mean, it doesn't appear that's going to be resolved anytime soon. I think I read today there's 140 issues that we have on the list. Is this one of the issues?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Ethanol is absolutely one of the issues. They have a policy and they're restricting our exports there. They need it. We're the cheapest molecule on the planet today, bar none. Nothing's cheaper to put in your vehicle at 90 cents a gallon. It's the cheapest BTU per gallon, and it's also the cheapest source of octane in the world today. And the world wants it, and China's restricting it just because of this trade policy.
So that's interesting. What I've always heard, and I just checked this today, there's a Stanford report out actually that says that sugar as a source of ethanol is substantially more efficient. It said 5 or 6 times more efficient than corn. Is that wrong?
Well, no, actually, that's not correct, because a third of our corn kernel we actually just convert into starch, which then converts into sugar all the way to ethanol. And that's really not correct. If you actually look at the price spread of per pound cost of sugar versus the per pound cost of corn today, from a price standpoint, we are much more economic and we are much more efficient. And if you actually go down to Brazil and you look at those ethanol plants, they're not doing anything special. And really, when you look at it and our carbon reduction and the percentages that we reduce carbon emissions, it's very similar.
And what does this do to the consumer? I mean, you said it's a consumer choice, whether they want 15% or not. Is it more expensive?
No, it's actually cheaper. So if you think about it, for 5% more of the gallon, it's a 90 cent a gallon cheaper gasoline. If you take that over, it's going to save the consumer somewhere between 5 and 10 cents a gallon when they pull up to the pump. And it's really the same fuel. There's not much difference, and they're not seeing any mileage reduction. They're not seeing anything happen to their automobiles. There's really no reaction in the car at all. It just drives like it would normally drive down the road. They're going to buy the cheapest fuel when they pull up to the pumps, and that's really what's got the big oil guys worried.
Is ethanol in the United States subsidized by the government?
No, there's no more subsidies. Those ended years ago. There is a mandate for 10%, but 15% is a choice. And so if you think about it, we're really mandated to use 90% oil today. And that's what they're trying to protect. So if you look at it, by just offering 5% more, if it's cheaper, why wouldn't we want the consumer to have that in their vehicle?
So come back to the beginning. If this E15 just goes ahead, the permission across the country, nationwide, around the clock, around the calendar, what does it do to the demand for your product?
Oh,
quantify it. How does it go? 5%? 10%?
So think about this. So the product demand today is 14.5 billion gallons. That's about 10% of the fuel supply. If we have access to another 7 billion gallons of demand, it's really going to be, can we compete with oil? And the oil guys know we can compete very well with them because our farmers produce more, they produce it better, they produce it cheaper, and that's the base for our fuel. And so we're going to have a big market open to ethanol, and that's the one thing that's really going to drive the growth of this industry long term. We've been under attack for 3 years already, and so we're going to be able to finally go after those guys and go after their market share, and that's really the thing that they're defending.